Hello everyone, and welcome to this Q&A session with Erik Pema Kunsang. And we try to arrange a session like this in November during the fall seminar in Lumbini at the Thousand Buddha Temple, but it didn't work out at that time. So now we are very fortunate and grateful that Erik has accepted our request to facilitate this session in this way. And yeah, so now we're able to all meet digitally together. And this is in fact the first meeting with Dharma International Youth Sangha. And we're happy that so many people are here. And yeah, there's a small group of ROI students all watching together. And yeah, so I think Erik doesn't need an introduction. And yeah, please.
Hello, everyone. Let's first test the sound quality. Can you all hear? Yes. If any of you can't hear, you have switched off your some of your equipment. Anyway, you have a chance to test that while we chant the first invocation. And afterwards, I'll explain why we do that. The land of Uddiyana's northwest border, on the pistils of a lotus flower stem, you have reached the marvel of the supreme city, and became known by the name the lotus born, with surrounding circles of many dakinis. In your footsteps I will reach accomplishment. Please approach in order to bestow your blessings. Guru Pema Siddhi Om. Mantra Bhadra Bhadra Sattva Prahi Bhadra and Sri Singham Padma Sambhava, King all the 25 disciples. So Nunya Khanda Tatra and the others, Gurus of the Kama and the Dhamma hear our call. In the Dhamma Tatu Bala Sakanishtam, essence of the Buddhas in the triple times, who directly to our minds as Dhammakayam, Urut Guru Hidaya Ninko. All right. So here we are, auspiciously together in one room, in one magical room. We are not in the same room, but at the same time, We are in the same room. On an inner level, we are in a shared room called Dharma Dhatu, the space within which all things originate and melt away. And is that the same for everyone? We have to say yes, but we can't say it's only the same, because each person may have their own enclosure, a little bit like a prison, but personal space. We all often have the feeling, I want to be alone. And then we have, luckily, a personal space, which is that area where our own thoughts and feelings unfold and melt away. But we also have a shared space that we can, for a moment, have open mind. And that means that just like the space inside my hand is personal, Erik's closed fist, it is possible to open this hand gently and slowly so that the space inside and the space outside are no longer divided. That is the purpose of chanting the first 3 verses, so that with respect and appreciation for all the teachers who went before us, and all the meditators who went before us, and practiced in the sense of opening their minds, we can share that room with everyone, all the way back to the Dhammakaya Buddha, Samantabhadra. And in this sense, the inspiration and the blessing of everyone is no longer separated, just like the space inside Erik's heart and mind is no longer separated from the space of all awakened beings. That is very important at the beginning of not only meditation practice, but any period of study. We stay for a little while with open mind so that the inspiration of the Buddha, of the Dharma, and of the Sangha, of the Gurus, the Yidams, and the Dakinis, and of the 3 Kayas are able to touch our hearts deeply and completely. It doesn't have to be long, just long enough for the sound to disappear. And during that time, you don't have to meditate in the conventional way. Just remain at ease and open-minded. A little bit like a child. Curious, but not fixated on anything. I'm very happy for this opportunity to share some of the insights which I have been given, learned, and practiced together with my own teachers, many of whom have passed away, passed on, passed beyond, and also some of whom are still very much alive, like Chokyi Nyima Rinpoche, who has established the Dhammakyan program. Many of you are involved in that, many of you maybe not. It doesn't matter. The questions I have been given are mainly from the students in Nepal at Dhammakyan. Meredith, is that correct?
Yep, they're mostly from Dharma Youth. Some are from the Portuguese Sangha as well, and then some from online, but this is usually what we discussed in November.
All right. I have the questions here in front of me. And some are particularly translator questions, and I'll keep those a little bit and dive straight into the personal questions. No, I won't. The more general questions about practical life. I would like to share with you a story that His Holiness the Dalai Lama told when he visited Denmark in 1973, I think, 72 or 73. That's more than 50 years ago. And I was a young student at that time. I still went to college, but inside I was burning and yearning to learn the Dharma. And he told a story there which actually took me quite a few years to find out what he meant. It was happened in Tibet, old Tibet. There was a person who wanted to practice the Dharma, and he looked around and he saw Dharma practitioners and how they behaved. So his first step was to imitate other people. One person was holding a mala, a rosary. So he also got one in one of these Dharma boutiques. And he learned a mantra, for example, Om Mani Padme Hum Shri. And he was very diligently just chanting that, Om Mani Padme Hum Shri, until he got wrinkles in the forehead, and because he was very earnest. So he went to a teacher and he said, now I've begun and I'm chanting Om Mani Padme Hum Shri, and what do you think about that? And the Dharma teacher, he responded, very good, but wouldn't it be better to practice the Dharma? So he thought, something must be missing. Maybe I should also make prostrations, these where you bow down and stretch out on the ground, which in Tibet is called the yogi's outstretched greeting. And he did that, and then he went to the Dharma teacher and said, I'm doing prostrations now. What do you think? He said, very good, but wouldn't it be better to practice the Dharma? And it went on like that. He also joined the Dharma Gyan youth group and started to learn texts and like that, and explanations, and learn by heart, and try to memorize and understand what the meaning was. And he went back to the teacher. He was still in old Tibet. And what do you think about this? And the teacher said, very good, but wouldn't it be better to practice the Dharma? And then he also sat down in meditation posture with closed eyes and very quiet and serene and not doing anything, not moving for 15 minutes, 20 minutes, and went back to the teacher. Now I'm doing meditation practice. What do you think? And the teacher said, very good, but wouldn't it be better to practice the Dharma? And then Dalai Lama laughed. That was in 1972. But the story is timeless. It is so easy for us to be, quote unquote, practitioners, make-believe, imitation of the outward, the superficial way of which we sometimes equate with, think is the same as Dharma practice. But what is Dharma practice really? We shouldn't be too quick about deciding that, because the first glance, the first understanding we may have of Dhamma practice is surface, how it looks like from the outside, not from the inside. But Dhamma practice is always from the inside. In Tibetan, it's called Nangdun Rigpa, understanding the inner meaning. And outer is how it looks like, the physical, the surface, but the inner is your heart and mind. So what is Dhamma practice there? It is like I showed before with my fist. It is loosening up the tightness or the tension of self-centered attitude. Loosening up the tightness of self-centered attitude. That itself is Dhamma practice. And how it looks like from the outside, whether we are prostrating, reciting mantra, chanting from a scripture, learning by heart, copying text, doing translation, and looking like the mind is composed in evenness, even though who can show how the mind is? Cannot. But the body can show that supposedly this meditator is now in equanimity, like this. But it could also be just very busy thinking about what's going on, or very busy daydreaming, remembering past events, planning future, all different things we could make ourselves busy with while just sitting quietly and looking serene, calm and clear. But real Dhamma practice is in your heart. And this is answering a lot of your questions. Loosening up the tightness of self-centered attitude. That is Dhamma practice. And it is always invisible. It's impossible to make a show of that. You cannot look like or pretend to be a Dhamma practitioner. It's impossible. Only one person knows, okay, let's say two, a Buddha and yourself. Not other people can judge that. Therefore, we cannot judge who is practicing the Dhamma and who is not. So we might as well just forget it and be concerned with the area that we can, I wouldn't say control, but manage, and that is this mind and this heart. The other people, we wish may they do their best, but we cannot know whether someone else is practicing the Dhamma or not. It's impossible. Can we agree on this? Not if you mean yes, shake your head if you mean no. Yes or no? Kan jeg se den tidligere skærm? Can we agree on this? So from now on, we don't need to judge other people whether they are practicing the Dhamma or not. Also, it's very tiring. But we can judge ourselves whether this mind is loosened up the tightness of self-centered emotion, self-centered attitude. That is always possible to check that. And that is the real meaning of mindfulness. Not just to notice whether the hand is holding the cup. The hand is moving toward the mouth. That is not called mindfulness. That is called being conscious. And everyone is conscious. All minds are conscious. As a matter of fact, consciousness is conscious, always. No need to bow and scrape towards that, because then all sentient beings would already be free and enlightened. And that's not the case. What we need to be concerned with as a practice of mindfulness is whether this mind is tightly closed in around its own aims, its own, meaning self-centered. That is what we should notice. And when that is the case, loosen up by means of and by help of Dharma practice in a superficial sense. We take support of chanting mantra, doing prostration, reading texts, studying, learning, listening to teaching. All of that array is a help for untying the knot of selfishness. So all conventional Dharma activities are important as support, as a help, but they're not the real Dharma practice, which is loosening up the tightness of selfishness. All right? I'd like to say this 108 more times, but we should go on to other questions. This is an answer to many of the questions. All right? You can thank Dalai Lama for that. There's one question here. I have the desire to enter into a guru-disciple relationship, but I'm also scared to totally surrender myself. How can I work on that fear? It's very easy. It's too early if you have that feeling. Just forget about it for now. Learn about what the Dharma is really about. And then later, when you need guidance, it will happen. Don't worry about that. And as a matter of fact, you don't have to surrender in a dualistic way. It's too early and maybe also unnecessary, because who is the other person? Who is the guru? We don't know. What if it's a bandit or bank robber and say, you follow me and then buy a gun and then do what I do and you'll be freed? You may end up behind bars in a prison. Not so good idea. So fear in this context is a sign of intelligence. All right? Don't surrender your intelligence. Use it to find out reality. And here I'd like to say something about Dharma studies, because Dharma Gyan is to gain understanding about what is real. Dharma Gyan, understanding reality. And it is possible that we believe that studying a text is called Dharma study. I'd like to edit that statement. We are not studying a text for the Dharma. We study reality with the help of a text. We study reality with the help of a text, with the help of a teacher. But main thing to understand is reality. Reality has two parts, the perceived and the perceiver, to make it very simple. Even though in Abhidharma there's so many other details and lists and categories, in short, it can be comprised or condensed into just two parts. What we experience and that which experiences, which is ourself. That is what we need to find out, what that reality of every moment of experience really is. What is it that we perceive? What is it that perceives? And here, the first tool of this study of reality is questioning, curiosity. What is it? What is this? What is that? Really. Not make-believe of what other people have told and learning old opinions, other people's opinions by heart. Not like that, but you being intelligent and curious, studying what is it that is being experienced, what is it that experiences, what. That is intelligent study. And then we can use a text that illuminates that. If it illuminates it, maybe it's a text that leads in a completely away from that. That's possible. But that's the duty of your teacher, to make sure that, to bring it home to your present moment of experience. And you can always say, what does this have to do with my moment of being conscious right now? That's a good question to ask. If the study is taking your attention too far away, bring it back. A good teacher will always bring it back to the present moment. This is how Chokyi Nyima Rinpoche has always taught. That all of the Buddha's 84,000 sections of the Dharma are direct instructions on how to free this mind from self-centeredness and from unknowing. Both of these. Self-centeredness, the first, unknowing, the more inner, more vital point. All right? If some of you don't feel, Erik is not going through the questions, why is he wasting our time? If you feel like this, just switch off your video and walk off. I won't care, because I'm going to talk about what I want to talk about. Next question, how do we structure a practice session around a sutra? First, adjust your motivation to be less self-centered or completely without selfishness. And we do that by making a substitute for the normal habit of I need, I want this knowledge, and I need to get it by chanting. Substitute that with a different attitude. It is important to understand reality so that this mind can benefit and help and alleviate the troubles of all minds, infinite minds, and therefore I will chant this sutra. That adjustment of attitude is the step number one in chanting a sutra. Because then you are already, you have already made it into Dharma practice from the beginning, even before chanting, thus I have heard. You already vacated self-centeredness into altruistic bodhisattva attitude, which is something very beautiful. Then you look at the text, and you don't immediately chant. You first let this attention, this mind, this awareness, this conscious quality that we all are, allow it to settle into itself for a few moments. You can do that with the breathing, letting go at the end of the out-breath. And then lower your gaze down to the page. The 16th Karmapa would always have his text up at the same height of his head. He had a table upon a table, and his book would be up here, so he didn't have to sit like this, like a crane or some kind of a digging machine. No, he would sit in a dignified way as a Buddha. So when you read loud the sutra, you are declaring the same words as was used by the Buddha and his companions of Mahabodhisattvas, Bodhisattvas, Shravakas, Arhants, and so forth. So this is a very dignified script for a theater. And you're allowed to sit with your head up, your face up, so that you can declare sublime messages sent from the past into the present moment of your consciousness, which is something wonderful and meaningful. All right? You understand? That is the second important point. Read with dignity and presence of mind, being in the company of the Buddha and great bodhisattvas. And all the great masters of the lineage who have carried this text into your life over the course of 2,500 years. But much longer than that, because when the Buddha taught, he often repeated teachings verbatim that he had learned in previous lifetimes, far, far back into the past, countless aeons ago. And which was a sublime humility, that he didn't invent this. He repeated what he had learned from as many teachers and Buddhas as there are grains of sand in the river Ganges. How many do you think that are? Many. He studied with not only one teacher, only one, not like that. He had countless teachers that he learned from and served with great respect and appreciation, so that in the life when he became a supreme Nirmanakaya, he could share all that knowledge with whoever was present, and also the people who became present in the future, which is you, when you chant a sutra, and all the ones who can hear the sound of your voice. A sutra is not to be read like a crime novel, silent, while lying down, and you're almost falling asleep. You read it while you are awake and present, and from the innermost heart, really, really kind, with kindness for everyone who can hear this, directly or indirectly. And also may it saturate your being, so that every action in your life may be saturated with the meaning of this sutra. May it, like throwing a pebble into a pond, may the rings of benefit spread infinitely in all directions. That was part number 2. Attitude, adjustment, chanting with dignity, and then at the end, spend a little while just letting the meaning of this settle into your system, stored in your invisible hard drive. Nobody has that anymore. RAM drive. And what was actually said here? What was the meaning? How does this untie the knots on reality? And then conclude with the third part, which is make a sincere decision and wish that may the meaning of this that has penetrated this mind be of benefit and help every mind to be untied from untie the knots of self-centeredness. Because that is so needed. Every mind wants to be at ease, but without knowing how. Pain and trouble could be endless. But this is a way to stop it, to bring an end to samsara. May it be so for everyone. Okay, that was question number 2. Next question, how to maintain motivation and practice in difficult times in society and on planet Earth? How to deal with hopelessness given that the world has seemed to not work out? I'll tell you a secret. The world has never worked out. It's not something new. The world, whatever that is, you find out what you mean by the word world, is never reliable. It's always disappointing. Yeah, you cannot buy shares and stocks and shares in the world and expect it to give an outcome that is satisfactory. So forget that. Forget expecting the world to be a perfect place where everything will work out and be beautiful. As a matter of fact, there will never be peace in the world. So forget world peace. Won't happen. Spend time on something more realistic. Inner peace as often as possible, as long-lasting as possible. That is possible. External peace is impossible. Then we should have summer. In Denmark, we like summer. I don't know about other countries. Could be too hot. Maybe we will have autumn all the time, but it won't happen. Everything changes. There's nothing reliable to expect or to hope for. So when you feel hopeless, it's because you placed your trust in something which is hopeless. So forget it. Turn your mind inward, and at the end of the out-breath, allow a short gap of true peace for just a few seconds. That is something you can trust. And then next, saturate that with kindness. Not only peace, but peace with kindness. Otherwise, peace is, I wouldn't say useless, but not very deep. Next. It's question number 9. It can be hard as a youth because it's easy to procrastinate, meaning delay, and feel you have lots of time. Despite my meditation on impermanence, I still feel as if I have a whole lifetime to practice. How do I cultivate a sense of urgency with practicing Dharma? This is not your problem. This is everyone's problem. So let's play with giving yourself a death sentence. You know, when somebody is about to be executed, they get one last meal early in the morning, and then they know there is no more meals after this. This is the end. They've already said goodbye to family and friends. The only person allowed in now is maybe the lawyer or a priest, whatever the country is. But otherwise, you are by yourself. You try to eat that, your favorite meal, while with tears in the eyes, because maybe you loved life. Let's just admit we love to be alive and do things. But it's impossible because now at 6 o'clock, as the sun rises, my neck will be cut, I'll be hung, injected, gassed, electrocuted, whatever the favorite way of killing people is in your country. Some places they're a little more humane, they just shoot you, and it's over in a second. A bullet in the neck, you don't even know what's going on. But no, some countries, they like to drag it out, so that you have to walk all the way up onto a stage, and then the rope around your neck, and then somebody reads loud your crimes, and then slowly, then they say, now we are going to do it. You get a sack over your head so you can't see what's going on, but it's mainly for other people, so that they can't see that you vomit or cry or go blue and red and white, whatever. Then the floor opens and you drop down, if it's a kind way of doing it. Otherwise, you just hang there for a long time. But the main part is, today is your last day. There is no more. Get used to that idea, that today is possibly my last day. What do I want to use my last day on? For me, I want to scroll through Facebook Reels one more time, because there could be something really important there, more important than anything else in the world. Or it could be, I'll take a walk and look at the landscape, because there could be some feeling it gives, that some memory of peace through the natural environment. For some it could be, all right, I'll sit and face the wall like Buddha Dharma and know reality beyond subject and object. For some it could be, I'll sing a song, play my flute or guitar or sitar, whatever we have as our favorite and most meaningful way of being. But today, I'll make this day count. Because tomorrow morning at dawn, I'll be executed. Last breath. This is how to, I won't call it meditate on impermanence, because that, I'm sorry to say, it's a wrong translation. One doesn't meditate on impermanence. One grows familiar with the fact that nothing lasts. Growing familiar with reality is that nothing lasts. This body will not last. The mind, the quality of what is behind every conscious moment, that quality of knowing, is not made out of anything and can therefore continue, cannot be destroyed, never arose. That is what to count on, being face to face with reality, free of concept of subject and object. That is how to train in impermanence in the ultimate way. The great master Padamba Sangye, he said, familiarizing yourself with the fact of impermanence, that nothing lasts, will make you enter what is meaningful and true, the Dharma. Next, it will make you persevere. And finally, it will make you realize what is true and real, Dhammata. So, contemplating and reflecting on and becoming familiar with the fact that nothing lasts is very, very useful. Especially when a horrible criminal who is a new Dharma student, who feel I'm not doing like old-time Dharma practitioners. I haven't really been able to push myself as much as they push themselves. So then one feels bad all the time because of not being an adequate practitioner. That is called self-torture. It's not Dhamma study. Then there's, what is the meaning of empowerment? We'll keep that for another time. Question 11. How does one achieve a good balance between study and practice? Many of us are students. How should we integrate Dhamma practice with our studies? That's a very practical question. Begin with adjusting your attitude, like before. That's Dhamma practice. When you begin, when you're about to study, your study session either in a group or one-on-one with a teacher or by yourself, always begin with adjusting your attitude and then remaining at ease for a little while. It could be 10 seconds, it could be 10 minutes. But in order to reconnect with a real and authentic way of being, and if the teacher is in that kind of mood also, you could sit together a little bit before speaking. If the teacher is on a schedule and has a program, other people are waiting, then don't insist on that. I had some teachers who would sit serenely and at ease for as long as you didn't ask a question. No problem. So long as you might even feel you're disturbing the teacher's mind by asking a question. But not at all. You ask a question, and immediately that teacher, that I remember, would just answer immediately and freely, precisely and short, and then remain quiet again. In this way, study and practice are not separate. We don't have to feel, now I have to study, I can't practice. That is, in a single word, nonsense. Study and practice are together. There is no real Dhamma study without practice, only superficial studies. Real study of the Dhamma means that this mind is involved in an authentic and open-minded way. And that in itself is Dhamma practice. Especially when it's connected with the altruistic attitude of a bodhisattva. May this study be helpful for every single mind that I'm connected with, will be connected with, have been connected with, which is everyone, no exception. In this way, even before beginning to hear the first word of Dhamma, you have already integrated practice with study by making yourself an open-minded, receptive vessel for teaching. This is so important and so easy also. Also difficult, but not difficult. Really difficult, not that difficult. Difficult to remember? No, not difficult to remember. Difficult to apply? Not at all. So what happens? It's when we have our priorities wrong. We think something else is more important. Getting through the text, learning it so that we can repeat back to the teacher so that he or she can be happy with me. That's not Dharma practice. That's egocentric ambition. But no big problem. We can substitute that with a better motivation very easily. If you take a formal class of Dharma study, there's always some chanting at the beginning, da 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 da, and then maybe the praise of Manjushri, da 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 da. I learned it by heart, now I know it, da 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 da. That is not Dharma practice. That's called chanting. But chanting can be together with Dharma practice if your heart is opening up at the same time. If you're sincere and present and kind-minded. Then there's a political question. How can we sustain the Buddha presence within us in the face of afflictions arising from social interactions? What should I say? You can't. Impossible. Interacting with other people and talking about politics makes awareness of Buddha mind impossible. As a matter of fact, everyone involved in samsaric mind cannot possibly attain realization. Then for whom is the Dharma instructions given? To Buddhas? Already enlightened ones? Yes or no? Dharma is meant for samsara to be untied, not for Buddhas. So don't entertain yourself with the idea, difficult, impossible. Forget that. Hard, yes. Can, yes. Try, yes. This is how Chokyi Nyima Rinpoche would teach. Few words, but really with meaning. Difficult, yes. Try, yes. Can, yes. And how can we assume a confident role in this journey of clarification? Too many words without becoming discouraged in the face of discomfort and sad happiness. You can't avoid being discouraged, you can't avoid trouble, you can't avoid sadness. But also, why should you? Then move to Hawaii or Bali, where nobody has any problem. Everybody has problem everywhere. Even the king of the gods, Indra, has problems. Especially when, through his divine clairvoyance, sees the end of his time on the throne of the gods and where he will go after, which is only one direction, down. There's no joy there, and it lasts for aeons. So this hoping not to become discouraged or face discomfort, that's called wishful thinking. Wouldn't it be better to practice the Dharma? It's only self-centered worry. We need to dissolve that through real Dharma practice that dissolves the tightness of self-centered attitude. That is the real Dharma practice. Also in this case. Now comes a really interesting question. I don't know how long time we have. Meredith, how long time do we have?
We have as much time as you will give us, Eric.
Now, Rinpoche, I assume it's Chokyi Nyima Rinpoche. He's making it difficult for us Dharma students. On the one hand, he says, need to recognize the view. And he gives explanations where we have to think about, like the mind is pure. But then he also says that the point of this is to not think about anything or to do anything with the mind. How could we possibly both think about the view and not think about the view at the same time? Rinpoche is a real troublemaker, right? No. Vipashana, which is this process, has two parts. One is thinking, and the other, the next step, is not thinking. Vipashana as cause, and Vipashana as result. In a very simple way, the curiosity you have, which is, what is this mind? Intelligent, questioning, exploring, that is Vipashana as cause. But then in the moment of seeing how this mind is, then it's Vipashana as result, clearly seeing. There is no conflict between these two. First one, then the other. Not at the same time. For how long time? When you get distracted, carried away, then you question, what is carried away? What is the commentator right here? Then giving the narrative of this meditation. Oh, now it's right. Now I got it. This must be the view. Or maybe it isn't the view. Maybe I should adjust a little bit so that the view is right. That is not Dharma practice. That's called thinking. There's no intelligence necessarily there that unveils or uncovers the view. It's only covering it up. That's called the process of further samsara. It's not meditation practice, but it happens for every mind that is not fully established in realization, which is probably the most of us. So how do we deal with this? We use the koan, what? What is it that thinks? And instead of looking at what is thought of, look into the thinker. This is how the Buddha said, how Padmasambhava said, how all the teachers said. Instead of looking at what is thought of, look into the thinker. And in the moment of looking, rest loosely. Then the narrative vanishes, like mist into open space. And you remain like that for a while. That is called equanimity or composure, which is like open space, the main meditation training of Mahayana. Not thinking about something as being held in mind, and also not doing anything. A training of growing familiar with non-doing. Like when Buddha Dharma faced the wall. For years of non-doing. But before that, it's necessary to understand that the view is without holding something in mind. It's often translated as grasping or fixation or something, but it just means whatever we hold in mind, dissolve that. Or not dissolve it, let it dissolve. And then followed by non-doing. No need to improve, no need to exclude anything. Just grow familiar with that in a very gentle way. Then you will find from within your own experience that there is no contradiction. There's no problem, conflict between thinking and non-thinking, doing and non-doing. At the beginning, it's one after the other, back and forth. And then at some point, you can think and be free of thinking at the same time. They say, like the flight path of a bird in the sky, no trace. You heard about that? Look at a bird when it flies and see, does it leave a trace, footprint, or a wing print behind it? Not chemtrails, but just a normal bird. No trace. This is how our thoughts can be. Not wishful thinking. At some point it's an actuality, but there's no need to use it in a pretentious way, like taking the answer and then plastering it like, now I'm free of doing, free of thinking, I think. That's that's not meditation practice. There's a follow-up on that question. In the practice of Vipashana, how do I know if I am analyzing with awareness or if my mind is just creating explanations? Well, in this case, it is analyzing and creating explanations. But there's still an opportunity within that. As you breathe out, let go at the end of the out-breath and allow a gap. And there's a pause there without any explanation or without any analyzing. Just grow familiar with this, not just speculating about it, but testing it out. That's a good word. Put it to the test. Not just once, 500 times. And then ask a question again about it. But don't come where you have not done your homework, testing it. Instructions are meant to be tested out in ourselves, in our own experience. All right? Meredith, are there any other questions that are really important? There was a session for translators, but I kind of skipped that.
Erik, I think if you have some general advice for students who want to become translators, that would be very helpful.
I'll close the questions and give general advice for translator sprouts, not fully bloomed translators. There's no need to say anything. But translator sprouts who have the idea and the wish and the aspiration that what we study will have some result or fruit for others. Of course, one could translate just for oneself, but honestly, what's the point? It's only out of altruism. So first of all, grow used to that attitude, that whatever I translate, and even before that, whatever I understand, may it be of help, of benefit to any mind that is so concerned with self-centered emotions. May it help to loosen up the tightness of self-centered attitude. That is the number one wish for an aspiring translator. Make that from your deepest heart before opening your book, when you sit in the classroom, before opening your laptop and finding the dictionary and that kind of nonsense. Then make that really sincere, that once the meaning of what I'm studying here, which is reality with the help of this text, once that is fully comprehended, may it be practiced in this mind so that the meaning becomes a reality, not just an idea. And once it has been realized, may it naturally manifest itself through form, voice, attitude, talents, and activities to benefit countless beings. That is the how to begin translating. All right? Then next, don't think you have to be a translator. That's point number 2. You don't have to be a translator. But it's very useful for other people who can't understand the same language. Then it's useful. But you don't need, you just need to understand what is important and grow used to that. I've spent years of my life translating. First, as an oral translator or interpreter for not only Tulku Urgyen Rinpoche, I was his interpreter for 16 years, but also for Chokyi Nyima Rinpoche, much longer than that, and for many other wonderful teachers. And one of the things I found was really important as a translator was to look at people while you speak. Because if they look like question marks, then you are doing something wrong. Too fancy words, too intellectual, too academic, too talking over the head, above the head of people. You have to speak directly to minds and hearts in order to make real sense, not just intellectual sense. Because honestly, what is this all about, this short life? Can we really use it to just making academic 5 stars on our shoulders and fancy hat? Or is it about untying the tense, self-centered attitude in minds of sentient beings, including humans, but not only? That's what it's really about. So speak to minds and hearts, not intellectually and hair-splitting analysis of this and that. That's just my personal attitude. I find it really tiring. And at some point it was fun, but then it was no fun any longer. So as a translator, aim at the most essential, which is helping to free every mind that you are speaking to, writing to, and not only getting your name on the cover as the translator. That is a trap, and it's superficial, and it's meaningless. And if we substitute our personal name with the name of the translation group, it's the same attachment. No difference, but just bigger ego. So don't focus on that. Focus on what really helps. That's my main advice here. And then another thing is, don't rush. Translation of the Buddha Dharma is not a rush job. There's no deadline. There's a lifeline, which is precision and kindness. Kindness, making it readable, not cluttering it up with footnote numbers and brackets and diacritics and all this kind of stuff that makes the text unreadable for any ordinary person. If you're really kind, you avoid that. And then precise, meaning exactly what the original text says, nothing extra, nothing excluded, but exactly as it is. That is precision, and that requires attention, intelligent attention. So kindness and intelligence are the two wings of the translator bird. All right? And at the end, always share the goodness with the wish, may this be a benefit to countless beings. Open countless minds. This was the wish I always made. I think it was partly due to my early teachers in this life, but also due to habit from past lives, that I made this wish before any kind of translation work, especially when it was in writing. I would always spend time really making sure that the motivation was tuned right. This is not to brag, but it's just, it's important. It's really important. So don't rush. Do a proper job with kindness and precision, both making it readable, making it correct. Then even if your work is only 4 sentences, it will have tremendous benefit for the mind and heart of the reader, rather than aiming at translating stacks of books, so many pages that if when they fall down on top of you, you die. It's much better to make 4 sentences really, really nice. More effective in the long run. If you want to make sure that they have a long life, those 4 lines, have them carved on your tombstone, rather than your name and the when you were born and died. That doesn't matter. Just 4 lines on the tombstone. Because whoever walks there in the cemetery, they'll say, "Hey, that's an unusual stone there. There's some writing on it that means something," and then they'll read it, and maybe it will touch their heart. So attitude and precision and kindness. Don't rush. Do a proper job. Sometimes if you have signed a contract with a publisher, you have a deadline. Don't sign any contracts with publishers until you have been a translator for at least 10 years. Otherwise, you may regret that book the rest of your life. I know people like that. There was one more thing that was really important, and I forgot. That's how it is. But the most important things have already been said. So thank you very much for the opportunity.
Thank you, Erik. We have one last question, if possible, that just came in from a translator. How would we practice to train our self-centered attitudes and selfishness where we think of only ourselves and forget about compassion?
I couldn't understand, but speak a little away from the microphone.
How would you suggest that we train to practice moving away from our self-centered attitudes where we forget about compassion toward?
No? You spoke a little too hard into the microphone.
Okay, I'm sorry. Check in the chat if you can see the chat.
I think I already answered that question. So if you have recorded, I already spoke on that, how to adjust motivation and how to be naturally kind and concerned with what is beneficial for others.
Thank you, Erik, so much for your kindness and your time. And may you have a very long, long life. And will you please teach us again very soon? We'd love to request some additional time with you in the later part of the year if you felt like it would be useful. So thank you so much. Really appreciate it.
Cheers, everyone. Just one more thing. We could have the idea that translation work is not necessary for us. For me, I'm old, or I already have Dharma in my language. But then at the same time, whenever we think of the Dharma, we are translating from words to meaning. So in that sense, everyone is a translator. Thank you so much. Sounds knowing Deva Mantra Dhammakaya Rim. Play of Kaya and the wisdom boundlessly unfold. In this practice of great yoga, secret and profound, let everything be just one taste with non-dual sphere of mind. In every single lifetime may we never be apart from authentic teachers' Dharma splendor to enjoy, completing all the virtues, the bhumis and the path. May we swiftly all attain the Vajradhara state. May the precious and sublime awakened mind rise in those where it has not arisen comparison, may it never fade away. Continue to increase forevermore. Pensa sato samaya manopalaya, pensa sato tenopa, chistande to me pawa, suto kayo me pawa, ano kayo me pawa, anorato me pawa, sarva siddhi memprayas, savakama sucha me chitram shriyam kurung. Ha 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 ha. Bhagavan sarva tata gata pinsarmam mincha binsi pava ma samaya sato. Thank you.
Thank you, Eric.